In this video we're going to be taking a look at resurfacing inside of ZBrush, but this time we're not going to be using an automated method. We're actually going to specifically lay out the exact topology that we're looking for. So they call this method the ZSphere method, and that is because the underlying structure of what's really going on, how you're creating this topology, is through the use of Z-spheres. So we're going to go to the subtool section and open this up, and the thing that's kind of cool about this method is you could have as much items on and visible as you want, and the new topology that you're going to be making will actually stick to any one of these models. So we're going to go in the subtool section, we're going to go to append, and then we're going to move over here and then just select a Z-sphere. And you'll have to drag out to the bottom of the stack here, depending on how many models you have and you see, and you're going to click on the Z-sphere. Okay, so I'm going to actually click on that Z-sphere and put it on move, and I'm going to make my brush size fairly large. Tap S and draw this a bit bigger here. I'm going to click and drag out just so that Z-sphere is not sitting on top of our model, just because I don't want that to cause any kind of issues later. Then we're going to scroll down here to the bottom down here, and then we're going to go to topology and open that up, and then we're going to say edit topology, and that's going to put us in this mode where we can start drawing out Z-spheres. So immediately you saw the perspective shift. If you want to turn perspective back on, you can go ahead and click that right there. Alright, now we're ready to actually start drawing the topology onto this model. So we need to actually have this in the draw mode right up here. You saw when we moved the Z-sphere back, we put it on move. Move is something that's going to be separate than actually drawing out topology. So we need to be on draw for this. And I'm going to just click a point on the model and drag click another point here, here, and here. And I'm going to make this quad right there like that. So you can see that we don't have symmetry turned on. So I'm going to step back, hit undo. So I get back here, and I'm going to tap X. Alright, with symmetry turned on, I'm going to go ahead and just start clicking a point here, add another point up here, one here, and then click back on that original point to close this off. Now we can start to see if we're actually creating geometry at this point. You can see the symmetry is working, and we're starting to draw on this surface like we would expect. But we can go to adaptive skin, and we can turn on preview and see if we're generating geometry yet. Or you can tap A to turn on this preview. So I'm going to tap A, and you can see nothing's happening yet. So let's keep drawing out and see if we can make another quad off of this, and then see if we're starting to get geometry at that point. So if we want to build off of any existing piece that we've got going on, you can hold down Control and then click on a point. You can see now I'm starting to build off of that point. I can add another point here, and then click this to close this off. Now I'm going to tap A, and you can see that that went away, and there's a little piece of geometry in here. If we do turn on transparent, we can see through the model at that point. And if we turn on polyframe, we can actually see the actual geo that's being generated from this. Now it might look a little bit different than what we've got. It's got some divisions in it, and that's because there's this density on this adaptive skin. So we can turn this up, or we can drag it all the way down to 1, which is going to show us exactly what we're making topology wise. So this is really where we want this density slider to be at 1. So we can turn off that preview or tap A, either one, and you can see we're back in the mode to where we can draw. Now we might want to move these points around, so we can push this on move and click and drag, and we can move this over. So if you ever get to a point where you're trying to move these points around and they're just not moving, you can actually mask points by accident by holding down Control, and you can see you can't move these points. So if that ever happens, just hold down Control and drag marquee in the open viewport, and then that will unmask anything. That happens quite a bit, and just by accident, and then you might not realize kind of what's going on. So I'm just kind of pushing these points around a little bit like this, and then I'm going to put it back on draw. So now I can hold down Control, and I'm going to build off of this section here and go to the center of the chest and then click here. So I'm going to have to hold down Control, click here, because I'm building off of that. And now I can tap A to check out the geometry that's being created. So that's cool. Everything's working. Tap A again. So I'm going to hold down Control, and I'm going to go from the center of this point to the center here. So you have to start off by holding down Control and clicking on that edge to break it. I'm going to hold down Control here and click in the middle there. And let's tap A, make sure everything's working okay. So it is working there, but if we put it on move, you can see something happened at the very beginning stage where this point is not actually breaking this line here. So we can put it back on draw. If you want to get rid of points, you can hold down Alt, and you can see your cursor turns to this little negative symbol. You can click on that, and here we are back here. So we can go to draw, hold down Control, click this point, and then you see if we hover our cursor right over there, the center line turns like this yellow kind of color on the edge. Now we should be able to move that point. If we've done it correctly, we'll be able to move that point and everything moves as you would expect. So now we can start pushing this out a little bit more and kind of getting a little more specific with the shape. So the key things to remember on this is that if you want to add geometry for the retopology, you always have to be in this draw mode. If you want to build off of any existing piece, you're going to have to hold down Control to start off there. But if we just want to click and add points like this, we can do so pretty freely like that and close that off. But if I want to go from here to here, I'm going to have to hold down Control to let it know that I'm starting this point from here. Hold down Control and go here like this. Always tap A to check the geometry that you're making, and you know, there can be problems with this process quite a bit, so always tap A, and you really need to check to make sure everything's working as you would expect. So now if I want to go bridge between that, I can hold down Control and click this point, go here, hold down Control, click here, and then go across again like that, and tap A, and you can see the geometry that we're making here. Something else that I noticed about this process is that every now and then ZBrush kicks it out of the edit topology mode. So you remember how we went to topology and said edit topology at the very beginning? So if we've done this adaptive skin and we were looking at a preview for this and then took it out of preview mode and it still looked like this regular piece of geometry, the problem is it's under topology. You're going to have to go back and click the edit topology, and then you can go back into this mode. You might want to turn perspective back on, and then it puts you back in this drawing mode to where you can keep building out like you would expect before. So we're just going to continue on for these pieces. I'm going to tap A, and we're back into our working method like this. So I'm just going to build out a few more things here. I'm going to hold down Control and then build here like this, hold down Control and click this piece like this. Just going to finish this out real quick. And try to turn the corner on this. So you can see that. I'm going to do one more here like this. And then I can go straight across here and here. And I've kept everything quads. And now I can put it on the move brush and then check this out and kind of be a little more specific with some of the shapes that I got going on here. So you can kind of pick up how I put this loop, and it was going straight across here, and this one was as well. Everything was going straight across, but I built it in a way to where it kind of loops back into itself now. And as you get a little better with resurfacing, you'll start to recognize patterns and geometry and things like that that can help you kind of go from something that's straight to round, and then how to finish geometry off to where it flows correctly. So let's take a look at this. Let's tap A and see if it's building all of our geo as we'd expect, and everything looks good. Okay, So this method is going to allow you to be more specific about what you're doing. It does have a lot of problems, and I'm not the biggest fan of some of the issues that I have to deal with when using this. But it can be a nice way of staying inside of ZBrush and then getting some topology out. I like to use it for these different shapes. I'm going to show you with the adaptive skin. If we turn off the preview under topology, there's a skin thickness, so we can actually pull this slider up and then tap A and see what kind of thickness we're getting for this. I'll tap A again to turn that off. It's not very large, so we'll make it 1. We'll tap A for that, and that's really large. Tap A again, and then let's put this at 0.2. I'm going to try 0.25. Try that. I'll tap A. That's still pretty darn thick. Tap A, and let's go to 0.05. Tap A. So that's kind of the thickness that I want for that. So this is pretty cool that ZBrush is building out a piece of geometry for us like this, and it's giving us this thickness to that shape as well. So it can be pretty nice whenever you're going to make mechanical things. Now we could go back to this adaptive skin, and you can take the density and start to throw it up a little bit higher like this. Let's turn off polyframe and see what we're getting here. You can go even higher with it. So this is the geometry that's being pushed from this, and if you want to turn it into real geometry that you can start sculpting with and you're happy with it, you go to this adaptive skin area and you say make adaptive skin, click that, and then if you look in your tool area, it's going to make a new version for you, and it's going to call it ZSphere skin. So it's right here, skin. It put the word skin in the front of ZSphere, whatever this number was, and it put a number 2 at the end of it. So let's go ahead and click on this over here. So here's our new piece of geometry. If we turn on polyframe, you can see it gave us poly groups for this edge here and this part here. So we can hit Control D and keep adding subdivision levels to this. Turn off polyframe, and you can see how it gets nice and smooth there, like that. And the other thing that's cool is that if we start mixing this together with some of the deformation stuff that they have for polish by feature, turn this little option off right here and drag that out, we can start to smooth that surface out pretty nicely. So we can pretty quickly either build topology that we could use to do the projection like we saw in the earlier video and actually capture all the detail from the model, or we could use this process to build out new pieces of geometry that have specific thickness to them and be able to start building new pieces of armor or chest plates. There's all kinds of different possibilities that you could probably think of when using this process. But again, I'll caution you that this tool inside of ZBrush in its current state is a little frustrating to use sometimes, and that's why I stay away from it as much as possible, and I only use it on smaller pieces. I don't like to resurface an entire character using these tools, and because of that, I'm going to show you in the next video. We're going to take a look at resurfacing this all inside of Maya, because I have a tool set that I can rely on, and I know what's going to kind of happen with that. And you saw the major area that I had problems with on this using this tool was whenever I had a big polygon and I wanted to split going down the center of that. That's where the major problems with this tool for me happen. So inside of Maya, when we take a look at that, it's real easy. There's tools that it just automatically puts a whole line all the way through the whole thing, so you wouldn't have to go point. It just builds a line through the whole thing. But I do think it is important that you know how to use this tool set inside of ZBrush, you know how to build these panels out, and you know how to get this thickness, because it can really help out later on when you're doing more of the hard surface stuff and trying to build out shapes for that. It's just another tool that you have at your disposal to make more complex shapes.